What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Make It Kustom. I'm Carl Fisher, and this is the 39 Zephyr. If you haven't seen it, it is, well, it used to be a 4-door. Now it is a chopped 3-window coupe. So what are we gonna do in this video? The last video I said I was gonna do the front seat, and I'm probably not gonna do that, so I lied. I'm sorry about that. But I don't think anybody really cared for me to do the front seat anyway. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I will get to it. It's just not as important now because I'm probably not going to like rush this thing for a show that I was thinking about. It's just, I don't want to put time restraints on it. And right now we are flowing on this stuff. And we just had the chop class, and I kind of want to just like, I really want to TIG tack some panels in. So what I'm going to do in this video is we are going to actually start making the welds on this stuff. So I think what I'll do is I'll take the upper sail the sail panels off, and I'll take the catwalk sides off. I guess they're all coming off, but what I would like to do as a goal, because without goals, you just have no goals, and I'm hoping to get that roof panel in and these two bottom panels in. So this is gonna be a video that is gonna be about fitting and about welding and that sort of stuff, I think. Something somebody pointed out, which is very true, is I don't have a trunk seal in here, so I should definitely pop this stuff up a little bit so that when the trunk seal goes in, that I've got a little bit of a gap down here. Makes sense to me, makes sense to you. Anyway, let's get into the video. Thanks for watching Make It Kustom, everybody, and following along with this build. Dream car stuff for me, and let's see if we can get some stuff welded. Okay, so also another reason why I want to just start welding rather than further fit the panels is because once we have the roof panel and these catwalk panels fit and starting to weld them, like at the same time we can be manipulating the window, like the back window, how I believe I've talked about it before, how it curves too much. And that is going to be like an inaccurate fit for these the sail panels. So I think we'll fit them as we go. So the upper panel, these bottom panels, let's get those fit and the back window fit and tacked in. And then sort of the next stage will be fitting and tacking in these side ones. We'll see how far we get. And yeah, you guys have asked before, and this is not a sponsored video about this or anything, but I am using just the Art Captain TIG 200 welder. It does AC/DC. They have ones that are DC only as well. The reason I like them is because they work great and they are budget friendly. So if you're looking for a inexpensive welder and you're a hobbyist, like I think that, you know, if you're buying an off-brand, non-Miller, non-Lincoln one, they're probably totally fine for hobbyists. But like if you're like in an industrial setting, like I probably would be investing in the more expensive welder that is meant for, you know, using all day, every day. Not to say you couldn't do that with that. Anyway, just being honest, there it is. Gonna rip these panels off and start looking at fitting that back window and just kind of prepping the areas to be welded. And we'll talk about it more when we're ready to slice, dice, and fit. Okay, so I guess what I'll do is I'll probably just get a few pieces of whatever, like maybe 1/8 inch or 3/16 flat bar, and I'll just stick them in the trunk gap just to keep our trunk gap the same wherever the trunk is tight right now. I'll prop that up, and then we'll just move our trunk gutter that we made up with the trunk, and that will move these up a little bit. We'll just kind of like free it all just to lift it up a little bit. I think that's the way to go about it. Okay, so what is going on? We are back to square one. Not completely, obviously, but I just mean that I wanted to take all this off because, like, we're talking about final fit now, and I've got some 1/8 filler rod here in some of the tight spots of the trunk, so I'm getting that nice gap that I want. And then now I'm just refitting these because this will be like the final countdown. The final fit of gappage. You know, we can always gap and match everything perfect by welding on the edges and actually gapping. But we're trying to get it as close as possible right here. So there's a little bit fat when I did my trunk lift. So now I'm just tightening it up to like eyeballing a nice 3/16 gap here. The eyes don't lie, you know. I kind of feel like I need a little bit of stretch in here. Just a little bit to help curve this right there. All right, I can't find my little stick thing to hold the camera, so I'm holding it. Anyway, where are we at? So this all got nicely kind of tacked, refitted. Happy with the gaps there. That's all good. These all ended up changing. It actually extended the distance between this and this by a little bit, just changing the gaps and raising the trunk up. That's what happened. So what I've been working on recently, you've seen me just kind of fiddling with the back window. I've been trying to get these areas to come up a little bit so that that curve gets to be a little bit less. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically the back window was turned in too tight because of where it used to be on the four-door. The four-door tapers back smaller, like the roof gets smaller the further to the back. So this had a sharper radius on it. So we just relief cut it in a few spots and just kind of manipulated the edge a little bit. I threw a couple more tacks on the frame itself, making sure that it's nice and straight. Like I took a straight edge to the frame to make sure that like our glass is flat when it goes in here. That is that. This is kind of tipped up a little bit also because it was tipped down. So now it's kind of on the same plane as the roof here. If I look at it this way, this plane has changed. It's less sharp here and will flow into our side panels. That's what I mean by like, I need to realign this stuff so that the next panels can have a place to be more accurately fit to. So at this point, I think I'm pretty much ready to fit this upper panel, this roof panel. I could technically, now that I've like cleaned this, I could put that back on there and start cutting it in. And then once that's kind of tacked in place and I'm happy with it, I'll start fitting this back section. And now the main top of the catwalk is 3 pieces. It's this large piece, and that center strip. So I'm not exactly sure whether or not perhaps I weld those 2 pieces or those 3 pieces together, the center and the 2 sides. Maybe I weld all 3 of those together and then like fully weld the center strip and then planish it off the car. That might be easier. And then fit that whole large panel as best I can and then weld the large panel in. Perhaps that would be the way to go. Cross that bridge when we get there. I think next is I'm going to fit this top panel. I know I talked about that welder and then I started using my MIG. I'm gonna take all this stuff in with that welder. I've just used the MIG to tack things. It's just quicker and less fiddly. So anyway, yep, top panel time. All right, so I just threw these panels on and now we're pretty much ready to cut them in, but we're not ready yet. So at this point, it would be probably a good idea to run the planishing hammer on the panels. So there's like a little bit of kind of like warbliness just from like hammer marks. You can kind of see it in the light lines a little bit where they just kind of dance. That's just like something that we could probably wash out with the planishing hammer. I'm gonna try to anyway. It's very low crown, right? So I'm gonna use number 36 on our planishing hammer. We only got like 2 or 3 of these left on the site, and I don't know when the next run is. So if you guys are interested, japhandskustoms.com. They come with a full set of dies and they're ready to go. So what I'm gonna do is wash over this whole thing and try and get it a little bit better. There's these little spots, like I might have to even circle a couple of spots. I'm gonna wash over the whole thing and then I'll come back, put it on, and then if I see any little lows here and there, we'll circle those and then just stretch them on the planishing hammer, just bring them up a little bit, try and get it a little bit better. Once that's that, we can cut in this panel. We're gonna do the same thing to this one. We'll wash over this one a little bit, just smooth it out. It doesn't have a ton of shape, but it will get better by just going over it with the planishing hammer. And then, yeah, we'll cut these things in. And if you're interested in TIG welding sheet metal, like this is where I'm gonna try and give as much information as possible on the fit, the technique, how to grind the tungstens. Like we'll dive deep into how I like to weld stuff in. Everybody has like maybe a different way. There will be some similarities between me and other people, but TIG welding thin sheet metal has always been a difficult thing for a lot of people, and I feel like I've kind of got a handle on it now, just understanding more about how it works and what really works so that we achieve as good a result as possible. So obviously fit is a big deal. That's why I just want all these panels to fit as tight as possible. You want to make sure that the panel obviously fits and lines up. That's why we realigned this back window. We don't want any stuff like fighting each other. You know, when you see guys like pry on something and then tack it, or like push on something and then tack it, that's because the panel, it doesn't quite fit yet. And it's fine. Like, I'm not knocking that at all, but if you're specifically trying to get like a really smooth finish, that stuff is fighting you. So it should always be corrected first so that, you know, parameters are all optimal, you know, or conditions are optimal. So optimal conditions is that everything fits relaxed and good, and then you start cutting it in. Anyway, planishing hammer number 36, we'll get that done, we'll fit it back up here, and then we'll start the welding journey. Okay, so threw it back on there. Did a full pass, just evenly as much as I could. You can see right away, see that? Those little creases? That was from me not holding the panel perfectly balanced on the lower die. So I've got to go over that spot for sure. The rest of it is, there's just little spots I'm gonna pick out. A lot of it's quite good, actually. Pretty happy with it, to be honest. So those little creases that I put into it in that spot over there, that was like when I was still figuring out how to hold the panel well. But what else do we see here? We've got a bit of a low right in here. I can see that. Do you guys see that? Starts like here's kind of okay. And then, yeah, this little spot is low. I caught something right here. Yeah, there's a small low right there. Maybe you guys can see it. So where's my Sharpie? So let's pick that out. Right here is a dent, basically. You guys see that? And then our low spot is kind of here. So what we can do to get this low spot out, actually, I learned this from Renato, just by hand with a hammer. If you've got a low spot like that, what he likes to do is he likes to hammer like this around the outside, and then a ring closer to the middle, and then another ring closer to the middle, and you work at it that way. So I'm gonna try that with the planishing hammer. We'll do that. And then let's go mark out. Let's see what the rest of it looks like. Oh, I caught another little dent right here, I believe. Right there. Can you guys see that? Anyway, it's there. And then we've got these creases happening here. There's a few creases. So we'll work these out. I think directly it's like there's one right there. Another one right here. Oh, I just caught something else. Another little, I don't know if that's a high spot or is that a low spot? Yeah, it is a low right there. So we're gonna have to stretch that, give this a wash. And that, this is low. I'm not gonna get crazy picky with it. Like we'll do this, and if it's 100% good enough, then we'll move on. We'll fit these panels too. My goal for this video is to get like this welded in and this welded in. I'd be super happy to get that far. Yeah. Yes. Oh, I wanted to mention, I'm trying out some new welding helmets. This company contacted me and they're like, hey, we see you doing like a lot of classes and stuff and doing a lot of welding. We'd like to send you a couple of helmets. So this isn't like a paid thing. It's more of like a try out our helmets and tell us what you think. Give you a little bit of backstory on this company. It's a Swedish company, and this company was actually started by the person who designed the Optrel welding helmets. From my understanding, you know, a decade ago, that company got sold, and there was like an agreement that you wouldn't make any more helmets or design any more helmets until 10 years had passed. And well, 10 years has passed, and these are some pretty cool helmets. I'm excited to try them. They seem like they're quite high quality. Swedish technology. The coolest thing about this one that I really like is this feature right here. There's two helmets that they sent me. This one actually pops up. Yeah, there you go. So that you can grind, or you can just see clear out of it. I really like that, because how many times are you know, you got your helmet on and you're not trying to wear safety glasses underneath the helmet, and you just tack something and you want to just quickly grind it or whatever, right? It happens to me all the time. And then I usually end up doing the safety squints and not actually wearing safety glasses, which is bad. So I think that's cool. I think that's probably going to be my new favorite helmet. This is another one, same kind of deal, but they just have like, you know, grinding setting, welding setting, sensitivity setting. The grinding setting just allows it not to auto dark, so you can see quite well and clear through them, so that, you know, you don't even have to have the clear. You could just grind a little bit, but I think the clear is pretty cool. Anyway, we're going to be giving those a shot. I've used them a little bit, but we're going to give those a shot, welding this stuff in, and yeah, let's finish planishing this so that we can get to little weldy welds. All right, well, she's smoother, but there's still a couple of spots I may have like actually overstretched this one spot a little bit, unfortunately, but yeah, where to go from here? This is where I always get like, I always kind of screw it up sometimes when I'm like trying to refine it, and I might like go a little too far and then have to back up, and but I mean it's pretty good. It's definitely shiny. Look at that. Like the transfer of the dyes, like the polish of the dyes is actually what's making it shiny, right? Like if you're hitting it with something that's harder than the base material, which those dyes are S7 tool steel hardened to 60 Rockwell, and they have a polish on them, it's going to transfer the polish, which is kind of cool. Like same thing with English wheels, right? But anyway, back to this. There's like a little thing right there. I don't know. I don't know how far I'm gonna screw with it, because ultimately we could, once this is welded in, like it's gonna warp and we're gonna need to planish it anyway. So I might start cutting it in. Yeah, that's such a tiny low. It's so tiny. It probably doesn't matter too much. Yeah, you just see like these like little warbles, you know? It's like, I know I can get that out, but it's like, how much time do you spend on it, you know? I don't know. Well, it's like pretty much lunchtime. Might go have a little bite to eat and come back to it. And then I think we're just gonna cut it in. I might try. I might try to get a little bit of that stuff out. It's pretty good. I'm proud of it. I'm pretty happy with how far it's come. So yeah, this roof might also need to be kind of like pushed up from underneath a little bit. Like it needs just that. Like the weight of this is just kind of hanging down. So I think that it might need to be just held up a little bit. That'll be important because, you know, if we scribe it now, like watch what happens. If we scribe it now, or if we add that little bit, it actually widens out, like in the middle, it like separates by like 1/8 of an inch. That's where a lot of people I think are like messing up potentially when they're marking in a panel. Is they'll just kind of maybe not have the perfect orientation, especially on something that's relatively flat, like you're patching a door bottom or something. If you don't have that pressed exactly where it's supposed to be, then it'll mess up your cut line. And if you're welding, trying to have like a tight gap, all of a sudden to get that back to where it's supposed to actually be, you're gonna have 1/8 of an inch gap, which is not easily filled or desirably filled. So yeah, that's one of the things that is really important when you're fitting. Anyway, this battery's about to die. I'm gonna go have a bite to eat, and we'll get back at it in a moment. All right, so next up for me, I think, is going to be do the same thing to these panels, and then we can kind of tack everything all at once. I don't think that like we need to fully finish welding that before we tack this one in or anything like that. So that is the plan. I'm gonna go through to the same thing to these panels, just give them a nice planish, get them smoothed out a little bit, whatever fine tuning might need to happen, and then we are tacking. Tack. these are looking pretty good. Happy with the way they came out. Now back to this one. Off camera I did smooth out that a little bit, got that out. Just forgot to turn the camera on. It happens. Now the next spot I'm kind of looking at possibly attacking is this here. Looks a little bit flat, like it doesn't complete the curve to the window, and that's why it's kind of being held up a little bit there, is that it's not really fully curving. That is a spot that I would, like, I'm gonna have really a lot of trouble hammering this. I probably won't even really be able to get much of a hammer on it, because there's like a, well, I suppose I could remove that brace, but even then, like, the window frame is right there. It's gonna be like pretty tough. So I don't want to get, I don't want to have to hammer too much. So as close as we can get it, we should get it. So what I'm thinking is I might go back to the power hammer and just power hammer right along here. It's quite possible that I didn't hit as many times right near the edge as I needed to, because you're scared of stretching the edge and letting the shape out. So even if I really look close, like, you can kind of see like what hammer marks look like, and there's not very many here. So kind of in this region all the way across, if I hammer it, it will take away some of the flatness of this edge so that it just turns a little bit more, and then it will turn into this back window a little bit better. So I might do that. I mean, it's already set up. It's got the 24 on the bottom, flat on the top. So I'm gonna do that real quick, and then we're just gonna prop this up a little bit and then mark our lines and start tacking. Sometimes, when you think of how something should work and it works, you get excited. That worked pretty dang good. You can actually see the light line curve, like right where I did that. It's a nice, slow, smooth curve now. So now we've got just this like very tight edge here, and it's really hard to see, actually. I'm realizing this. You guys probably can't really see what I'm talking about, but here, that might depict it better. See how it just smoothly goes into that? That's what I was most concerned with. It's just that. Okay. Honestly, it doesn't bother me. I don't think that I even need to plunge that. No, I don't even need to plunge that. It's fine. Yeah, okay. Let's start marking it out. So there was yeah, there it is. There's a little piece in here. It's kind of the right size to poke up this kind of right there, so that we got this nice and tight. That's looking good. So I think what I'll do is what should I do first? I guess it doesn't really matter. I can just mark the thing. I'll probably just mark the thing. Yep. Just gonna mark it. So the whole point of, not the whole point, but the objective is, for me, like, okay, I'm gonna say this. Butt weld clamps, me personally, I don't like them at all. I don't like them at all, okay? And I don't, and some people are like, oh, well, you got a gap there, so it's nice to have a place for the weld to go. I don't believe you. I'm sorry, I don't believe you. Because if you're TIG welding, or even if you're MIG welding, you should have plenty of heat to burn through sheet metal. Okay, that's the way I think about it, is that if I've got a perfectly tight gap and it's perfectly consistent, then you can fuse weld as much as possible and only add filler when you need it. And then your heat is directly affecting how much penetration you get. So I will aspire to have the tightest possible gap, like touching as much as possible. And that, I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but that's, for me, the most efficient way to do it. Because if I have like I'll stress about these little things, right? Like fitting this panel is A1 most important thing for TIG welding, is fitting the panel. It's not actually the welder setting or whatever. It's like, is the panel really tightly fitting, or at least really consistently fitting? If it's a consistent fit, then you won't have to play with your heat when you're welding it too much, right? So you can have a consistent amount of heat. And if you're not navigating gaps and navigating inconsistencies, it means that you get to travel at a consistent speed. Okay, so consistent heat, consistent speed, consistent fit, those all point to a more efficient weld, not just time-wise, I'm not saying that, more efficient for cleaning, more efficient for hammering. Like if you have a consistent amount of shrink because your weld is consistent, then you have a pretty consistent amount of hammering to do. And you don't have to like mess around navigating all these little lumps and bumps, right? So the objective is to have the least amount of filler with good penetration on the tightest, most consistent fit. Okay, so that's why like I need to put that little piece in there to hold the roof up so that this gets a touch wider so that I can mark it correctly. Because if it was sitting down and I went to go fit it up, I would have a gap and then it would be an inconsistent fit. So there's that. A lot of people like using the scribe. I think scribes are great. I really do. I've used them before, especially from how many people say scribe's the only way to go. But the other thing that I find nice is that I can see the edge of a Sharpie really good too. Like where the edge of the Sharpie turns back to clean metal. Like that's exactly where I'm gonna cut it. And me personally, I'm fine with that. Like that's actually gonna get me like a very accurate fit as long as I'm cutting on the right side of the felt, right? Or the left side of the felt. So that's, do it whatever way you want. Something that I've seen before that I also think is a cool idea is that you use the fat Sharpie instead of the Dicam, or like the that machinist blue dye that everybody sprays on everything. You can just use like a fat Sharpie and then scribe that. Dries faster, it's in your pocket, not a big can that you gotta bring around with you. So think about that maybe. Yeah. I find the Sharpie line works well. You see that? Right? And then if you take a look under, well, I guess when I pull the panel off, you'll see. Yeah, that's just me. So at this point, you can cut it with whatever you want, but I like using tin snips, or I like actually using an angle grinder. If you get like like you pay the money for like a skinny angle grinder wheel, I find that those work pretty good too. So you don't have to have like snip to fit or whatever, because quite honestly, that's kind of hard, or I find it difficult to snip to fit. My hands on 18 gauge cold rolled, they don't love that. And I don't know, the angle grinder's fine. So I'll probably use the angle grinder and maybe the snip on the roof, because the roof is, I'm cutting the roof. Yeah, okay, cut time. So we're all cut in. So one of the things that I want to talk about before we get going, woo, this thing's slippery, is that when you're tacking this, there's kind of an order. Okay, so if I've got like a really long straight like this, two ways you could tack it. Because it's dead nuts, like we made sure that our cuts are super accurate, you could start by tacking here, and you could just tack from one end all the way to the next end. You don't want to leave too big of gaps in between each tack, and I'll tell you why. Because if you leave too big of a gap, there's room for one piece to be up or down from side to side, like of the joint. And basically, if one piece is up higher than the other, like this one's a little higher than this one, then there's technically more material on that side, and then you're locking it in with the next tack. So you don't want to do that. Like if I tack here and tack there and you're just jumping around with tacks, no. You don't want to do that. So the other way you can do it is you can tack in the center and then work your way out, which is probably what we're going to do here. Because it's the same thing, you're chasing it out, it's not going to be able to bunch up at all. So as long as each tack is dead level, like take your time, make sure that both pieces are totally aligned as best as you can, and tack every 1 to 2 inch for now. Once you got the piece in, then you can go and tack every like 1/2 inch. And between 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch is the spacing between your tacks that you're going to want, because when we decide to weld this, we are going to weld from one end to the other. Like we're just going to non-stop do as long of a weld as we possibly can to keep things consistent, because every time you stop or start, your heat is going to be inconsistent. It's going to cool down and then have to heat up in that spot, so the warp won't be as consistent. If I could weld this thing like start to finish, the entire thing, I would. You know, if it was like laying right in front of me, I would try to. I think when I did the doors on this car, they're a gap of about, or a stretch of about like that. It took me like two welds, but it's all about consistency. So you just want to, you know, be as consistent as possible. So you see me tacking. I use a MIG to tack stuff just to like put it into position. I'm going to TIG tack all of this, but like this thing's sliding around and I'm struggling, so I'll just get a tack right here on the back window, right in the middle, right there, nice and tight. Get a tack like that. That's going to hold us in there. Oh, the welder's not on. That's important. Look at how perfect of a fit that is, though. Didn't even move. Yeah, okay, so we got a nice tack in the middle there. Have a look at that roof profile again. I've got that piece jammed up inside here and tacked to the roof right there. So, yeah. Yeah, see? Yeah. So, try and make sure that's super flat, right in the middle. Okay, we're nailed. We're nailed down. Now I'm going to set up the TIG welder and start tacking from the center out on this top one, and same thing on the other side. I noticed the gap is a little bit bigger on that side. Could be because I tacked this bottom piece here and this was overlapped a little bit. I don't know. We've got a little bit of a gap here. I don't totally love that. I can move it. Yeah, there's a little bit. Yeah, that'll be good. Nice. I might actually tack this side first to try and close this gap up. Every time we tack, it's going to pull it a little bit. There's a tiniest gap here. You can barely see it, but I don't want any gap. So this little gap that I got going on here, I don't want that. So I'm going to tack here, 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 and it's going to pull that together a little bit, I hope. I could also break this tack and just move this over a touch if I think it needs it, but I mean, it's a nice tight gap there right now. Oh yeah, that tightens up just by me doing that, just by pushing it into this window frame. That's okay. Okay. So when tacking with a TIG, I know I've said on the channel before that like a good baseline is like 1 amp per thou for thickness of material. So say we are using 18 gauge, or in metric terms, we have a lot of metrics on the channel. Thank you for watching from around the world. 1.2 millimeter is 18 gauge, 1 millimeter is 19 gauge, 1.6 millimeter is 16 gauge, I believe. So 1.2 millimeter is what I'm using. The factory metal is 1 millimeter, so we're slightly thicker. But anyway, the heat I'm gonna use on this welder, I'm gonna use 65 amps, not 45, which is about what the 1.2 millimeter is, 45 thousandths of an inch-ish. And the reason being is that when stuff's really tight and things are cold, like when you're tacking, you need more heat. So for me to do a really quick tack in sheet metal, you don't want to sit there. Some people think that like less amperage the better. Not true. Enough amperage to move as quickly as possible is the coldest way to weld. Let that sink in. Enough amperage to move as quickly as possible is the coolest way to weld. Okay? So I will use 65 amps on the machine so that I can stab the pedal full throttle for like half a second to make a tack happen. And then it sits there post-cooling it, and then there's like not even like heat lines around it. So it's extremely efficient at not heating up the metal when we're tacking. Obviously it's still doing something, like it's still gonna be shrinking with each tack and whatever, but that is the way I tack, is like quick, as fast as you can. Bam, like stab it. If you need a little bit of filler, the filler's right there. You stab it, the filler goes, wets out, and then like you're off the pedal immediately. So get used to tacking like that with sheet metal. It will be good for you. And then when we do go to weld the whole thing, you don't need that much amperage. Like, you might need a little bit in the beginning with a tight gap to just like throttle up to get your puddle going. But then once you start moving, you just want to consistently move, you know, like it's not a race, but you want to continue moving, like keep moving. And you want to get it so that you're fusing if it's tight, and then you'll see your little puddle drop. It's important to really be able to see like a number 8 shade on your helmet. You really want to be able to see that puddle. And like, I'm a weirdo, like I will look really close. I have to be looking really close with my face. And as soon as you see the puddle drop, that's when you dab a little bit of filler. And then you keep moving, and then you dab a little bit of filler. Like you're not welding this like dab, 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 like you're timing a weld. Like if I was welding thicker material and having to add filler to make a weld on a T-joint or something like that, then I'm like trying to get a flow going and adding filler all the time. With sheet metal, no, you are adding filler as needed. So you don't want to bunch up too much filler. Anyway, that's enough information for now. I'm going to start tacking from the center out on the other side with 65 amps with little quick pedal stabs. And once we get it tacked in, we will make some weldy welds. Okay, the other thing I'll say is that I think my favorite rod is 040 for this. I'm using 1/16 tungstens. I grind the tip of the tungsten to be the length of the cone is about twice the thickness of the tungsten. So if it's a 1/16 tungsten, I got about 1/8 of an inch of grind on it. Oh, forgot my foot pedal over here. Couldn't slide the foot pedal underneath, so I disconnected it and then tossed the wire under there. So just got to plug that back in. Okay, we should be good to go. Should be. I always forget stuff though. Did I put the ground on? Did I do all the things? Did I turn the machine on? Okay. I'm using a number 10 top. You can use a bigger one, use a smaller one. These are called gas lenses. They basically allow for a lot more stick out of the tungsten. Like this can stick out way further when you have a wider lens, makes sense. It's got a little screen inside so that it really diffuses the gas well. The drawback on this is that you will use more gas. Like I use about 40 CFH on this instead of like 25 with the smaller ones. But I think it's worth it. The extra flow also kind of cools the material around. So I like it. I resisted when they came out, but I am now a believer. They work awesome. So bad habit or good habit, it's just my habit. I don't wear gloves for doing this. I want to be able to feel how good the gap is. There is a little bit of a gap, like I was saying earlier here. So I am going to want to have filler ready. And I'm going to hold this in my hand. Just kind of lay the weight of my hand on the panel and feel where it's going to be nice and level between the two surfaces. Seems okay right there. It's hard for me to get up on it because I'm on the ground, but whoa, hello. Okay, totally thought I turned my gas on. Oh, my gas is on, but it's like ripping. Why is it ripping? And so I do need the hammer and dolly. It's tight enough where I can't align the panel right now. So I'm gonna have to smack the tack a little bit. You smack that tack, it immediately spreads the metal back out again. And now I can get a tiny bit of a gap here so that I can align the panel by manipulating it. Okay, that's feeling pretty good. I do have a little bit of overlap here, which because it was kind of gapped here and tight here, I'm okay to shave a little bit of this. I wanted to tighten this up, and I am gonna shave a touch of this, I think. Well, let's just check. Let's just check. It might not. Yeah, it does feel like a bit too much. If I force it, I can kind of get it there, but we're gonna shave a tiny bit off of that. All right, so one thing you probably have noticed, or maybe you can see it or not, the center where I had that stick kind of pushing it up, it is peaked a little bit. That's because we had it pushed in the center there. I was using that stick again to like help align these panels to give some underside lift to getting this. So this side worked out really good, but and that side's pretty good too. Just the center is still up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna slice that. I think that we just had it too far up. I'm gonna slice it with what is it? Just one of these air saws. Super handy, very, very thin. So I'm gonna slice just the middle to allow that to come down because I think I inaccurately drew that line because it was probably pushed up, or it definitely was pushed up in the center. And then, yeah, we'll tack the rest of that. We'll give it another hammer. We'll finish tacking that side every ½ an inch like we did this side. And then this is pretty much in. You'll notice that this gap here is still beauty. Like we're still nice and tight on this back window. It hasn't moved at all because we're not really affecting it too much by tacking it and hammering it the way we are. Come on, I don't wanna have to cut a hole. One thing I will tell you, I definitely love the feature on this helmet of being a face shield. I have a low bridge in my nose, so like safety glasses, I still get stuff in my face, so I do like a face shield. And yeah, this is a comfortable helmet. Can I do it? Can I get it? No, I don't think I can. I'm gonna have to make a tiny incision, surgical. I hate doing that gap of even like the skinniest blade. This is technically an 035 blade from Walter. They're very, very skinny. I like them, but they're still too skinny, or sorry, too wide for doing what we're doing. Luckily, this is gonna close up a little bit. Yeah, see, just that relief, like just giving it that slice, it already just relaxed down. I think that's probably all it really needs. So not too big of a deal for filling it. It's just something we gotta do. Actually, I'll give it just a little bit more, a little wider. Beauty, beauty, beauty. Oh yeah, that looks great. That looks great. Okay, so what's gonna happen next? I like having like another person here to help if it's like something I gotta reach. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna use my planishing hammer, my long reach one. I'm just gonna grind any of the excess welds off of here. If you have a really tall tack and you wanna just smash it down, it's really gonna stretch that spot. So I'm just gonna take the tips of the tacks off the top and the bottom of the sheet, and then I'm gonna go and, if I had another person here, we would just hammer this together and hammer some spots, you know, if there's like a low spot here, we would just work on it together, but the planishing hammer really does do that. So what I can do is I can hold the frame of the planishing hammer and push up a little bit from the bottom while it's running, and I can kind of stretch this up quite easily. So what I want to do is just make this as smooth as possible. Right now I've got a bit of a low here, bit of a high there, bit of a low there. There's some unevenness in here. And like I said, consistency is everything. So we want to get this thing back to relaxed and consistent before we weld it. Okay, so that is the next step. I'm just gonna, take the tops off of the welds here and then go ahead and bring the planishing hammer over. So this right here is the 36-inch planishing hammer. It's just got like a lot longer depth to the 24. We do sell them on the website if you're interested. They you can get them in a master set where you get both hoops, and or you can just buy them individually. They're the same price each one because they're, you know, they're just a little bit longer one than the other, but they're the same machine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this die out. That's what this adjuster's for. We just adjust that, drops that. I can change that die out for a 36. Ooh, is my face really dirty? Oh yeah, I got a dirty face. You guys didn't tell me. You didn't tell me how dirty my face is. Anyway, throwing that die in there and we'll get that smoothed out. Beautiful. Okay, that's all it took for this half. We'll swap it over to the other side, get that done. No weird humps in it. Just kind of nice and uniform. Now it's ready to weld. See how nice and tight that is? There's no kind of oil cans. It's not actually supported anywhere. That's just it supporting itself because it's the right shape. Look at how tight that is. There's a little lump right there. That's okay. As long as our weld seam is nice, which it is. Okay, so now I am going to weld, I guess, how am I gonna do this? It's kind of hard. I wish I could weld from one side to the other completely. What if I sit on the dashboard? If I sit up there and lean over, could I do it? Could I do it? Do I fit out this window? Oh my God. I don't think I can turn around. Oh, look at that. Getting out of here will be the hard part. Could I weld from up here? Technically. Oh, this is actually awesome. I could totally weld from up here. Na, 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 na. Just like that. Na, 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 na. Okay. I will set up the foot pedal so that I can use it, and I'm gonna try and weld this thing in one go. Wouldn't that be a miracle? I almost feel like it's like not chopped enough. I can just make it through the window super easy. Okay. This is kind of weird. I almost need like a, no, I can do this. I can do this. Okay. Welder's on, ground is on. Testing, testing. It's, you know what, with welding, like if you're trying to do like a really long pass like this, there's all kinds of like little things that you'll figure out, but you gotta be comfortable as possible, and you gotta be able to continue to move. So like, if you are the type of welder that's kind of tense and you're holding your arm hard on the vehicle and you're just trying to keep that steady, releasing your arm from the car is gonna be difficult to slide. Cause like, you're obviously gonna have to like be able to be steady and kind of slide this whole way. like relatively smoothly also. So I think about that stuff when I'm like getting ready to do a weld. So I always, doesn't matter what I'm doing, even if I'm not doing car stuff, I'll always like see if I can make the whole, you know, weld without losing, you know, my grip. Cause like I'll weld something hard against the table or whatever, but when you're doing a big roof weld like this, you gotta tighten up your core and everything, and then like you're basically hovering on the car so that you don't have weight on this hand, and then you can just kind of slide all the way along so that you can do a whole weld all the way along. Like, I don't know, maybe it sounds dumb, but like that is it's kind of an important part of this. Okay, so I'm gonna try and do it in one go, but you know, this is a very long weld. It's kind of an awkward spot. And there's a shifter in my leg. Ooh, I had room. Okay, so kind of hold myself up. Want to make sure I'm going to be able to do this. And keep my foot on the pedal. My foot's not running out of room. I can slide. I might have to... This cable might be a bit of a problem, but... Okay, we're going to give it a go. Stab it to start, make your puddle, and then focus on the size of your puddle kind of in your periphery as you're like you're looking directly at your puddle. Focus on the puddle. If the puddle tells you everything, if it gets too big or starts to drop really fast, like you're too hot or, you know, you need to dip. If it gets too big, you're too hot. Like once you make your puddle size, you want to just maintain that unless you get into a dodgy spot like I will in these areas that it's a little bit wider. Like for probably this whole section up until I made that cut, it's a relatively consistent gap. So we should be able to run it pretty good. It's going to get a little dodgy in the thicker spots. But other than that, I think we're good to go. Okay, let's go. Well, I just dipped my tungsten, unfortunately. Makes the arc a little bit less stable. Not as focused. Okay, I'm gonna have to change that tungsten. That's too bad. Would have been a personal best, longest weld, if I could do that entire roof, but dang it. Oh, this side is messed up too. Oh, now I gotta go grind this tungsten. Yeah, there's a little spot. So a bit of a tip. When you are trying to fill a tiny gap, you just got to keep adding, like keep your heat down, but add more filler because the filler cools it down at the same time. Okay, I'm kind of past that spot now. I can't even count how many start stops that was. But key thing is keep them short and keep the gas on it. So even though I started a bunch of times here, this is the only one you really see because the heat changed. It had time to cool down and I had to start again. So it was cold right in that spot. But this heat stayed pretty much the same even though I started a bit. Yeah, anyway, there's a bit of a wave in the roof right here. Actually, that's so funny. It's not even funny, it's just how it is. Right here, right there, there's a sink in the roof. The rest of it's like pretty, ouch, that's hot. Pretty smooth, and then there's a sink right where that heat changed. So we'll be able to take care of that, it's not a big deal. But yeah, weld is done. It's the short part of the whole process. I'm gonna fill these little tiny holes from our clecos next, and then we'll give it a grind and a planish. Okay. Heads up, like this could go farther. You could use die chem. You could go and metal finish this after welding. It's possible to get it much better. And this is as far as I'm gonna take it because I don't feel like the rest of the car is gonna get any less or more Bondo than what we've got here. So I'm very happy with it. I'm stoked that it's done. I'm just gonna look at it with this. It is a little bit high, so I should probably give it a bit of a shrink. It's a tiny bit high. It seems like this part is a bit of a low in the roof. Like maybe this had a little bit more crown. I mean, at the same time, it's like a 16th inch. If that. It's pretty good right here too. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it for now. Could be better, could do more things, but I think it's fine. Right now, this all flows quite nice, and there's a couple spots where there's a little bit of low on this side and a little bit of low on this side. So we could run the shrinking disc a couple of passes on here and play with it, try and get it to be a little bit less filler. But anyway, I'm moving on. So hopefully that gives you guys like a bit of an insight into like how I like to weld stuff. And my biggest thing is like there's not just a big sink right there. When you weld roofs, it's like quite common to see like a big sink because of how it was welded. So as long as you take those steps, and even if you were going to do this with MIG welding, you could probably get as good of a result with MIG. If you do the stack attack thing in previous videos, you can check that out. And just keep the panel super cool for minimal warpage. Not a lot you can do hammer-wise with MIG. Anyway, that's that. Our back window gap is still same. We're good with that. You know what? I might actually even MIG the back window because that would be, I'm not gonna get in there with the planishing hammer, so maybe I MIG it. And this would be like a video of like MIG versus TIG. Maybe. 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 Let's do it. Yeah, you can see how the finish came out. This is just 80 grit on the DA. That's all it was. After 80 grit on the 3-inch. So it's decent, but a little bit of a low up there. So yeah, I'm gonna do this with MIG. I might as well. I feel like it'd be kind of cool. And honestly, I think it's just gonna work really well in this spot. The whole idea the whole idea in MIG welding, the stack attack, I'll show you that right now. Basically, we're just gonna tack and then stack tacks on tacks, like one tack at a time. That's how this MIG welding thing goes with thin sheet metal if you wanna control the amount of heat. So again, you have your welder set a little bit hotter, like hottest setting on my 110 welder is what I'll use. And that way, with a tight gap, which we have, your tacks can be like zap, quick. And it's hot enough that with a tight gap, it'll penetrate through. That's why you keep it hot. And then that way, it's also cool because you're just tacking for like a split second. So each tack that we do, we're gonna cool it with a little bit of air and then just keep moving on. That will keep our like little heat zones small, which means that our warpage areas will be small. The other thing that is handy with this is because we are so close to the window frame, this form in the window frame is very strong. So that is going to keep us from doing anything funny in here. So that's kind of a bonus, is being, if you cut it really close to a window frame or a bead roll or a body line, you'll have an easier time controlling that sheet metal from like butting in or doing anything. So anyway, I'm gonna use my little Memco Matic. This is an old welder that's like kind of when Miller and Hobart and everybody was making the same welder. It's just a cheap little 110. I use 023 filler wire when I'm doing 110 sheet metal welding. The reason being is that 023 is thinner, so now you don't have to add as much material, and because you don't have to add as much material, it doesn't take as much heat. So the more material you add, the hotter it's going to be. So that's how I set that up. And same deal, we're just going to tack from the center out, and then we are going to tack in between our tacks, and then we are going to start stacking our tacks and just cooling each time with a little air blower. I find it works really well. Okay, so made this a long time ago. It's just like a piece of brake line stabbed into the end of an air blower. And basically, I'm gonna tack and I'm gonna blow it cool and just keep on moving. That's all it is. See, everything stays to the point where I can touch it, right? Even like I just welded there. It's not hot enough to burn me. It's less likely to put too much warp into this panel. So if MIG's your only option, or it's your preferred option, stack a tack on the back of the tack you just did and just like move along. It takes time, but it works. Well, there it is. That is my version of MIG welding thin sheet metal. As long as you line those things up really, really good, when you grind the weld, it will go down to the base material on both sides at the same time. And if that happens, then you end up with, like, without grinding too much, you still get to have like a disappearing weld. Obviously, it doesn't really matter if you see one side of the weld or not. I don't know, I just like the challenge, I guess. But yeah, just don't grind too much. It's more important to not grind too much, because if you grind your material to look like that and it didn't get lined up perfect, then you're grinding too much out of vanity, because it's all gonna get Bondo anyway, right? Let's be honest. It is like a little bit high, but once this bracing all gets out of here, I might knock some of that down just with a slapper, just give it a little bit of a bonk on some of the high spots. But it's, yeah, it's pretty dang good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay. Yeah, time for a bit of a cleanup, I guess. All right, well, I think I'm gonna call it because the video's running long. Hopefully this was informative for the kind of two different ways that you can do it, MIG or TIG, just butt welding on thin sheet metal. These are the techniques I like to use. They're not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm happy with the results anyway. So that panel's in, monumental, first panel welded in on the roof of the Zephyr. I'm feeling good about it. The next thing I'm gonna do is get those in, but that'll be the next video. We've got to weld that centerpiece in and line those two pieces up. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching Make It Kustom. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And if you want to exit through the gift shop, that's japhandskustoms.com. And yeah, I appreciate all the support I can get, and I'll keep making these videos. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.